Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man. What is up, people? Welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, coming to you live on YouTube on a very late Sunday evening. But we're here, nevertheless, ahead of UFC 229. We got a lot to talk about today with everybody. A lot of MMA action went down this past weekend. And, yeah, of course, the big fight card coming up this week. I am Matthew Wells. Alongside me, as always, is Kendrick Johnson. What's going on, my man?
Doing good, man. Get ready for this craziness. It's going to be wild. Hope we can do something here locally and be able to give y'all some inside track. I'm going to go on go record. I got Conor, second round KO.
Man, you calling it already. Second round KO for Conor? That's what you're feeling? I'm not mad at that, man. I'm really not. Let's go ahead and get right into it, man, because it's, I don't know, it's one of the biggest fights in recent memory, no?
Oh, for the most definitely. But I think it's going to either going to be a spectacular knockout by Conor, or it's gonna be a boring fight. If I'm a Khabib fan, hey, I'm cool with seeing him maul him and make it a boring fight for 5 rounds and dominate and get that dub, because that's what he's going to have to do to win. Yeah,
it's gonna be, like I said, man, it's gonna be one of those fights where it's who can impose their game, and it's obviously we obviously know what Khabib wants to do. We know what Conor wants to do. It's just which one is gonna be able to get it done quicker. Who's going to get off first? Who's going to get that takedown? Or is Khabib going to be able to get the takedown? Is Conor going to be able to defend the takedown? That's the biggest question.
Do you think Khabib's ego going to kick in? Like Javier said, they have a specific game plan, but that doesn't mean that the game plan is going to be intact, because Khabib could go out there and do something completely different. Evidently, he's done that before and gotten away with it. He may not be able to get away with it this time. This is coming from Mr. Mendez himself.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do that in this fight, though. I think the stakes
he don't even know.
Yeah.
He knows it better than us.
Yeah, and of course, if you guys haven't listened, we had Javier Mendez on last episode, episode 70, so go check that out. But I don't see Khabib taking any risk in this fight. I really don't. I think it's going to be him sticking to the game plan through and through. I think it's going to be him knowing what works for him, and that's obviously his wrestling. But man, it's going to be tricky to see if he can get Conor down. It's going to be real tricky. And not just get him down, it's get him down and keep him down. Because people don't really talk about a lot of the times is what, we point out the fact that Conor gets taken down, like it's some, kryptonite thing. Like, Conor got taken down, oh my God, like the fight's over. Well, we see Conor get out of compromising positions before using some pretty slick jiu-jitsu. Like, his jiu-jitsu and his sweeps are underrated, I think. So I think if he gets on the back, he has the ability to get up. But if Khabib can keep taking him down, keep wearing him out, how many times is he going to be able to get back up?
I want to see Khabib get caught like he did in that Michael Johnson fight, so that theory can be proven that it's different levels to this, because he does not get out the round if he gets caught like he got to get caught against Michael Johnson.
Yeah, that's a big thing, right? Because not only did
I just because I was at the Quinta fight, I think that was more for show, because
you're talking about the one the last
Brooklyn
fight?
Yeah, I think that was more for show. I don't put no stock in that one. But that Michael Johnson, don't tell me you trying to test shit out. I want to see if my chin's okay. See that this dude that's left-handed and hit me, but I don't know about that.
No. I don't think there'll be any of that, man. I think it's just gonna be. I think it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be game plan for both guys. I don't think there's room for error whatsoever. Because the stakes are too high. We're talking about the lightweight championship of the world here. A belt that Conor never lost, for one. So you got to keep that in mind as well. I mean, how are you going to, come in? Khabib, it's kind of funny because Khabib didn't really fight a top contender to get the belt. Fought Ali Quinta. Ali Quinta's obviously a top 15 opponent, but he wasn't, a number 1 contender to win the belt. And then Conor never lost his belt. He never lost either belt. He never lost his featherweight belt, never lost his 155-pound belt. So
I do think it's funny that he's never defended a belt, but it goes to show you that the name's bigger than the belt.
Did you see the meme that was going around? The only thing Conor's defended is a picture of Artem.
Hey, everybody say that. I want that homeboy that'll fly out across the country overnight to have my back. We need more friends like Conor.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
And got the money to do it on top of that.
Yeah, that's the big thing, man. Like, he put a lot on the line. And he obviously had to pay for it too.
I want to see how Thursday's press conference is going to go, because they're going to be wilding on the crowd.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The crowd, I think they're doing, I mean, it's smart to do it in Vegas because they can obviously, I think they can control it better.
Yeah, because that's home base. A lot of people, of course, we know, but a lot of people don't realize the UFC's home base is in Vegas, and they kind of have a lot more pull and can do things. Because New York, they on the bad list. New York looking for reasons for them fools not to come back, and they're giving them so. That's why, from a political standpoint, it was good the way they did the press conference. Even though from a fan and a media standpoint, it's like, what the fuck is this? But
it's
yeah,
true.
he didn't want no problems.
It's true, and I think for the fighters themselves, though, I mean, I'm not sure how many fighters are actually keen on wanting to continue to fight there, you know, because they have to pay these extra higher taxes in New York. So it's like you're already getting a lot of money taken out of your purse for various reasons, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things. But yeah, you're right though. They are looking for reasons to pull the plug on, you know, the UFC and New York. But I wouldn't be mad either way.
It's kind of crazy because I've been to the first 2 cards at MSG and how electric they've been, and like this year it has no electricity. It's like they need to cancel the card type shit.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But let's continue on with 229 for now. Co-main event, man. Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis. I think
Tony shows why he's Tony.
Yeah,
but you never know. I don't want to count out Anthony Pettis. Is just I don't see him coming out like he did last time and doing what he did. I was looking more for the fight before that. I like Dominic Reyes. We saw him in Oklahoma City, and then the way he's cool, I think OSP gonna find out it's a young man's game.
Man, I think this is a good test. That's a good test for Dominic Reyes because OSP is a beast on the ground.
But you don't know when he's gonna show up though.
He's a beast on the ground.
You don't know which one's gonna show up though.
Yeah, that's been his thing.
He's
been inconsistent.
He need a title shot tomorrow. We look say like he need to hang it out tomorrow.
No, I've never said he needs to hang it up. I've never said that.
I'm just saying he don't look like he should be elite. And then next time he looks like he's elite.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah,
he's inconsistent. That's a little strong. My bad, OSP.
Yeah, he's just a little bit inconsistent. But man, if he gets you on the ground, if you get on the ground, man, more than likely he's gonna find that arm. He's gonna find an arm, or he's gonna lock in that Von Preux choke, something crazy. But Dominic Reyes, he's got cinder blocks for hands, and he can knock out anybody, I believe. Behind
the scenes, we got hit up your boy Mike, man. My boy Black Beast just switched his number for the 15th time. Like literally, I've known that man for 3 years. I got like 4 numbers for him.
Hey, life of a heavyweight superstar. I mean, this is a big fight too, man. The potential. If this is an impressive victory for Derek Lewis or Alexander Volkov, you're looking at the next title shot possibly. You know, I don't know how that whole situation is going to play out with DC.
I don't think DC ever defend. I give his props two reasons. One, if he fights John, which we know is going to happen, he's like, I want to fight you in your class so I can get that belt. It's like the same circumstances because he could easily be like, nah, bro, you come up to heavyweight. So I don't think he's ever going to defend the heavyweight belt.
You mean the light heavyweight belt?
No, I'm talking the heavyweight belt. I don't think DC's ever going to defend it.
That's what he's doing with Brock. That's gonna be a heavyweight.
That fight's not gonna happen.
That's what's happening next.
I don't believe it.
That's what's happening next.
I really don't believe that one. I think he fights John before he fights Brock.
No, I don't.
You start seeing signs already.
I mean, I would love.
You really think that fight's gonna? That's a wishful thinking.
I would love to see it. It's more wishful thinking for the John fight because they're talking about doing John and Gus for the interim 205 belt at the end of the year, the beginning of the year. So DC and Brock looks like the next thing's gonna happen.
I bet you they can get DC in there with that right money.
We already see if you watch WWE, when Brock shows up lately, he's looking a lot leaner. He's getting ready. So
I don't see what the big deal is about him, and I've seen him fight.
It's just he carries over that WWE audience. That's the big thing.
I never get. And then the whole, for instance, like so, when was 200?
What 2.5 years ago now? Almost, I forget.
So he
it's 2 years ago.
Was that the one he fought at?
Brock and DC were both on that card, yeah.
Yeah, so
when DC fought.
Is the suspension retroactive to that? Like, how's that go?
No, so I think it's suspension goes up in January.
That's craziness right there.
Yeah, his suspension is up in January, if I believe. So he'll be able to fight after that. I don't have it pulled up or exactly what date. Yeah, I believe it's January.
Like, that's crazy to me. It's like, so it's retroactive.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. But the crazy thing is like, you know, to your point, kind of, is that DC's been calling for this fight with Brock, right? Like, Brock is this huge draw. Well, Brock was what, the third fight on UFC 200? He like, you had 3 fights after him, you know? So it wasn't like he was like the top, like, oh man, we got to put Brock in the main event. Got to put Brock in the main event. Like, no. Like, Brock, sure, he draws big numbers, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of people, you know, anticipating his return since he hasn't been active in the UFC. So maybe more people will get that interest back in.
But here's the thing though with Brock though, like UFC 200, as big as it's supposed to be, it only did 1 million views. I said 1 million.
Well, yeah, that's because John Jones dropped out.
It was supposed to do at least 2 million.
Well, you had what, 3 different main events that week?
Yeah.
3, I think. Yeah, they switched the main event 3 times in that week, and then like within the last 48 hours, they switched it twice. So there's a lot of mess going on around that card, and of course, you know, we were there and we were in the thick of it. Covering it all was just madness. It was time to close it. Time to close up the laptop, and time to open up the laptop 5 minutes later. All right.
For the whatchamacallit, from the competitive aspect, there's no way that fight goes past 2 rounds.
DC and Brock?
Yeah. Right. He's not even remotely at Stipe's level. We saw what happened to Stipe.
I agree. No, I agree. Honestly, I think DC gets him out of there in 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, the wrestling game's a wash, and we know DC's got better hands. So,
but it's Brock Lesnar still that high level wrestler? Like the dude's early 40s. People forget that too.
He's still a physical specimen. Like, he is just an absolute beast, man. And of course, he's been tossing dudes around in WWE. Like, dudes, like, yeah, the stuff is obviously, you know, it is what it is. Pro wrestling is what it is, but you still got to lift dudes up. Still got to lift dudes up. So, I mean, obviously, he hadn't lost any strength.
Hey, DC put $825 in my pocket last time, so you already know how money's going to go.
Yeah.
I hope I see some crazy odds again. I sure will go. I had no intentions on putting $300 on that, man, until I saw that plus 220. I said, I had to get this money. That's literally what happened.
Of course. Yeah, it's going to be crazy, but yeah, I don't know how that's all going to shake out as we roll back to Derek Lewis versus Volkov here. It's a good fight. I think it's going to be one where Derek Lewis makes it the typical Derek Lewis fight, where he kind of drags it out, you know, kind of lulls Alexander Volkov into thinking like he may be gassed out, and then a wham, just hit him with that lunchbox.
It'll be better than the Francis fight.
Of course, it'll be better than the Francis fight because Volkov has that mentality of he needs to go in there and get guys out, or at least try to. But I think Derek Lewis is going to. I think he'll find a way to get his hand raised, man. He finds ways to win, and I'm not betting against him, you know, especially not in this fight. And of course, kicking off the pay-per-view card, Felice Herrig versus Michelle Waterson. We were supposed to have Michelle on the show tonight, but unfortunately, some things fell apart at the last minute. But is what it is. She's been on the show a couple times before, so we'll have her on again soon, I'm sure. But this fight to me, man,
it's very interesting because whoever wins is in a very good position.
Yeah, but
whoever loses is in a very bad position.
Exactly, and you got to think that there's a hungry young lion who just performed here in Dallas that I'm sure may get matched up with the winner of this fight.
You talking about Carolina?
I'm talking about Tatiana.
Oh yeah, she is. I don't want to say this. What? There's no way, but she's way too big for Michelle.
Yeah, her frame's too wide. I mean, listen, I'll say this: if Michelle can prove that she can keep...
both of these ladies are in their early 30s, like I said, people overlook that in women's.
That's what I said, hungry young lion, Tatiana. Yeah. But I think if Michelle can prove that she can keep Felice off of her, because Felice is a grinder. It reminds me a lot of the Courtney Casey fight, at least like
they both fought Courtney Casey.
Yeah,
last year.
Yeah, and I think Felice and Courtney have a lot of similarities to their game, so this is going to be just another test of can Michelle keep the wrestler type off of her and prove that, you know, hey, I can implement my striking game. But Michelle's just got it, like she outpoints these girls.
Yeah, I think she got outpoint. She got outpoint Felice, but that's why I see her. But I don't think she can do that to Tatiana. That's my boy Shed, aka Shay Sharp, would say. You don't want those problems. She don't want those problems.
Exactly. The only way Michelle can get it finished is if she ends up locking in a submission, rear naked choke or something off Felice. Otherwise, I think this one will go to the judges. But it is what it is.
I'm not like crunk like a lot of these people for this card, but if you go into a sports bar or something, get your ass there early because, like, I know the fight starts at 9 on Central Time. If you ain't up in that thing by 7, good luck with all that because it is gonna be lit. We're at multiple sports bars on Saturday night.
Yeah, no doubt. And ending the prelims was supposed to be Sean O'Malley versus Jose Quinones, but as we come to find out, Sean O'Malley has a USADA issue going on, as he posted on his Instagram about, which is pretty interesting because they have this new thing going around where they made some adjustments to USADA, and they're not going to be announcing when a fighter tests positive for, tainted supplements, whatever have you. They're not going to say so-and-so has been flagged for potential anti-doping violation. They keep it all, behind closed doors until everything's been ran through. They've done all the tests and made sure it's not a tainted supplement or whatever have you, which is kind of interesting because
what is a tainted supplement?
What
I say that is, in theory, you're responsible for everything you put in your body. So you need to do your homework and check out.
You still. Yeah.
So it's like, so what is a tainted supplement?
Tainted supplements can happen though. They can happen in the labs when they don't clean out their stuff properly, or if you're using a supplement company that may not be as reputable as another one. Yada yada. Obviously, like DC told us when he was on the show, he's like, I take a ton of supplements, but I know which ones to take, and I've never had an issue. So yeah, it depends on the companies that you're using for sure. But tainted supplements are a real thing. It does happen. And as Sean O'Malley has said here, he's dealing with that kind of issue, and he's already sent off the stuff to Jeff Nowitzki, and they're working on trying to get a resolution, but looks like he won't be fighting.
I don't say it's ruining the sport, but they need to go to VADA and keep it real. VADA don't care who you are, and it's the way you hear about less controversies with VADA than you do with USADA.
I don't know.
People talk about costs. Did y'all say that UFC's worth billions of dollars, which it ain't? But so it's like, why the people that don't have to pay the bill worry about the costs? I think that's hilarious.
Yeah,
UFC can't go to USADA. They can't leave USADA and go to VADA because it costs too much. When you pay this bill, like, why are you worried? If you really want to clean sport,
it's what it is. Yeah. So that's kind of unfortunate. It's a weird thing because when we start seeing fights fall out like week of, and it's just like, is it going to be like so and so pulled from the fight card for undisclosed reasons? Like, how are they going to explain that on fight week? Because you used to have like, flag for USADA. Like, now we know what it is, and it's going to be like, so and so got pulled from the card.
I feel you, but
like,
why,
we're going to have to go to the fighter
do
and find out.
You need an explanation though? Because like in boxing, they just said such and such won't be able to compete on Saturday. That's all they leave it.
Yeah, there's the whole thing. There's the whole thing. Like when you say they've been flagged for potential anti-doping violation, where it like drags their name
that leads to questions there.
Well, yeah, it drags their name through the mud. Like the thing that happened with JDS. Like he got, pulled, and everybody thought he was cheating and everything. Came out he wasn't. So it's unfortunate. It's just gonna be one of those things. Like you're really never gonna be able to truly keep it under wraps because reporters are gonna find out. The guys that are doing the legwork out there to talk to these camps and these fighters.
I really don't think that fans really care though.
Fans, I don't think they do either. Honestly, I really don't. Most fans just want to see
the fighters shit because you may have somebody cheating, trying to whoop your ass.
Right.
so I understand where they're coming from. That's their life. People's always livelihood. That's their life. So I understand that one, but fans don't really care.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a weird thing because fans just want to see the fights happen. If you're saying so-and-so is fighting, fighter A is fighting fighter B on October 6th, they just want to see it happen. And if all this other stuff happens after the fact, yeah, that's more of a concern for the fighters and those actually involved in the cutting the checks and, having to suffer the consequences of actually stepping in the octagon. But
how much are you think we go dodge the craziness happening this week?
Man, it's we kind of diving it down with Aaron here in a little bit. We have Aaron Bronsteter for TSN on the show.
Because it's like if it can happen, it will happen when it comes to the UFC.
there's so many interesting things that can happen, man. If there are issues because of having Ferguson and Pettis on this card, we could end up with Khabib versus Tony. We could end up with Tony versus Khabib. Finally, we could end up with Pettis versus McGregor. Who knows? Like,
that would be crazy if Conor pulls out and then Tony happens out the blue.
Right.
But Khabib, that would be kind of funny.
That would be wild because Conor's never pulled out of a fight, at least on fight week. So, you know, it's been. I doubt we'll have any issues on Conor's end. He always shows up. He makes weight like a professional, and he'll be toasting his proper whiskey, I'm sure, before and after the fight. You know, that's kind of crazy too that the proper whiskey logo is going to be on the cage.
Why is that wild?
Because he's a fighter and that's his company and it's going to be the main sponsor. I don't know if it's going to be like the big main sponsor in the middle of the canvas, but the proper 12 logos will be on the canvas.
Because they have to.
They don't have to, do they? Why would they have to?
Okay, from a business standpoint, you're not gonna go from making $100 million to making 20. Like, who does that?
So
they have to make up the difference. Have to make up the difference somehow.
So it's a nod for
like
Conor
he's the outlier. Like, I definitely say he's definitely the outlier, but he is the outlier.
Yeah, but that's the first time that's happened to where a fighter who's actually headlining the card will have a sponsor on the cage.
I know that, but they haven't had nobody come out for making $100 million either.
Yeah.
Made the 50 card either.
That's
they got to make up that money somehow. But like I said, he is the outlier. Like, if somebody were to do something like that, and it had to be like a Ronda. If John Jones gets his act together and it's like 4 years from now, he's still John Jones. It's like lightning in the bottle type thing. That's how Conor is.
Yeah.
Like, nobody can just because they got like, even like somebody like they do a Mighty Mouse, they run off like 8 or 9 defenses. Right. That's not gonna happen. You gotta have all the stuff combined in and outside the cage to be able to pull what Conor's pulling off.
Yeah, I want to hear the disclosed payouts. I'm interested to see what the disclosed payout for Conor will be.
You mean what they're going to say his guarantee is before the other stuff?
Yeah.
But tell me this, they keep talking about, a lot of people, fighters, saying that they don't do the under the table or like they used to for Zuffa, but they got to.
They do.
But it's like, it was a lot easier to track back in the day. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah, they do. They still do it. It's just not as prevalent, I don't believe, but they still do it.
Was that everybody, for instance, if you're not a champion, can you get something under the table?
Yeah,
you can't. I want to say, do you? I should say. Everybody can get
I will
something
say
on the
this.
table.
I had some sources told me. I get to say sources. It's funny. Some sources told me that they still get the checks under the table.
Everybody,
and,
even like
not everybody, but
like, you have a name.
I will say
or
this.
You have to have a name, and you got to be like a contender.
No, if you main event a fight night card, you're getting an extra check. So I've heard that. I've been told that from more than one person.
Speaking about that, what do you think about these? Right, this is why the pliability of the UFC in the long term with the 130,000 views for the last one, as big as that card was, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it just shows that.
And that's the second time this year in 3 or 4 months.
It shows a couple of things. One, Darren Till wasn't as big of a star as everybody thought.
So I could have told you that.
But there's also the things you got to take into account is that I believe like in the UK and everything like that, like they don't buy pay-per-view over there. Like they have stuff on.
It's free.
Yeah, it's all like on BT Sport.
I learned that from boxing.
It's on BT Sport.
Like we watching shit on Showtime and HBO. It's free over there.
Right.
We got pay-per-view. It's free over there.
Right.
I thought that was crazy when I found that out.
Yeah, so if all those people had to buy the pay-per-view, I'm sure the numbers would have tripled. You know, but Tyron's never been a huge draw, unfortunately. He's an incredible athlete, probably one of the best fighters in the UFC, arguably the best welterweight of all time. He just doesn't draw well.
Arguably.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that will argue that till the day you die. You're talking about GSP.
And I like him a lot. He got to do a little bit more to be on the GSP level.
I mean,
definitely a Tyron champ will make you camp, but your resume he got to go. So he has the potential to be. He's not there today, 2018 September, but he can be.
If I had a wish, man, give me GSP versus Woodley next. That's what I want to see.
I think Tyron gets it easy at this stage of the game.
I don't know.
At this stage of the game?
GSP's still a beast. They're saying GSP's walking around like 165 right now.
I'm going to pull something behind the scenes,
Not walking around, but training.
I talked to him like randomly 3 weeks ago. I got his number outside of Southern Texas. He carried a conversation about as I'm trying to pull strings to get him on the show. That was gonna be a big kid.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
But I didn't ask him his weight though. He just said he's feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. A couple other things I want to touch on real quick. Obviously, the Bellator card that happened. Musasi versus McDonald that happened last night.
Props to Gegard. I wasn't surprised. I don't know why everybody's like making a big deal. Like,
I wasn't surprised either.
Dude's been a beast for a minute. He just took his opportunity. He got the wrong end of UFC politics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no reason he shouldn't be in the UFC right now. It's crazy. The size difference though, when those two were in the cage, I was like,
way bigger. He looked like a light heavyweight.
Yeah, he looked like a light heavyweight, and Roy looked like a lightweight. I was like, man, this size difference is crazy. And the crazy thing is that obviously Roy was contending for a second title, fighting for Gegard's middleweight title. He still holds the 170 belt, and he's fighting John Fitch. Very soon, he's fighting John Fitch. And the worst case scenario happened, where Roy got finished, he got his nose busted up again, and he has to go in there and fight John Fitch. I mean, John Fitch isn't like a big power puncher or anything by any means, but still, you're coming off a loss. Like, how is he going to rebound from that? You know, it's something to pay attention to. But so that was a big moment for Gegard, and then of course,
Rampage
still
throwing them bombs.
Man,
is Rampage 40 yet? I know he's close.
I don't know. They're both old. They're both super old. I don't want to see a fifth fight because I think it'll end exactly like this one did. But Rampage looked good, man. He looked good.
He looked like 2008 Rampage, but
he was sharp. He was moving around well at heavyweight.
His time's passed.
He still got nice, sharp hands. Boxing is crisp. I mean, he just can't fight a wrestler. Don't put him in there against anybody that's going to take him down. And he's fine.
Yeah, he is 40. And Red Lake's 42.
Okay.
So we had a senior citizens fight.
Yeah, don't give me that fifth one. I don't need to see it. We know how it's going to end. But it was fun to watch nevertheless. And Douglas Lima, man, against Koreshkov. That was the opening round for the welterweight Grand Prix, which they're calling the $1 million tournament now. That 50 Cent is adding $1 million into the prize pool, which is a whole other topic I won't dive into right now. An otherwise incredibly boring fight, but Douglas Lima found a rear naked choke in the last round, and everybody was like, "Oh!" It was one of those things where you're like sitting there, like this fight's still going on. Oh, he's got a rear naked choke. All right, congratulations. All right, good job. Let's move on, please. That's what it was. But Aaron Pico again, looking like a monster too.
Do you think that Bellator is just gimmicky?
No, I mean they have to do crazy things to draw people in. And the thing I like about Bellator, I love their presentation style and their tentpole events like this one, where they have the big screens, they have the grand entrances and everything. It's not as crazy as Ryzen, which we saw Ryzen was also on last night, but I didn't watch it. But I love their entrances, man. They have character. They have these video intros, and they have style to it. Whereas UFC just has the exact same walkout for every single person.
Because that's cutting into their money because they want seats. Because they have to do all that. That's taking out 1,000 or 2,000 seats.
Yeah, that's true.
You see how people are in Vegas. I tell people, because as you know, I go to a lot of fights in Vegas, both UFC and boxing. I think I've seen one fight ever during the actual fight. I've seen a ton after the fights because people pay all that money. They ain't trying to act a fool. They may act a fool in Staples or here in Dallas during the card. They ain't trying to do that in Vegas because more than likely they ain't spent thousands of dollars to get out there and they spent $1,000 on that high dollar seat. Why you gonna act a fool?
Right. So true.
That's why people are so chill.
Yeah.
Now after the fights, shit get real.
Yeah, I have witnessed that personally. I saw it.
I've seen it for both of UFC and boxing. Boxing, though, I thought it was like, like people like talking about they about that life.
After Conor
Mayweather Madonna won.
Bloodied up.
Yeah, stampede after Mayweather Madonna won. Somebody got their leg broke. Somebody had a fractured skull.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, man, I saw a guy after Conor Diaz too, man. I was trying to get on the elevator. There was a guy on the ground, laid out, bloody everywhere, cops surrounding him. It's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, he was an Irish guy. He had a tricolor on, But man, you guys, you didn't get paid for that fight. Those two guys just made millions. You got knocked out for free. And you got to pay a hospital bill now. You're on the wrong side of everything right now. But, yeah, man, let's do this, man. Let's go ahead and get into our interview and our chat with Aaron Bronsteter at CSN. We'll go ahead and play that for you guys. We just talked to him a few minutes ago, but we'll go ahead and play it right now. That'll wrap up episode 71. UFC 229 is going to be an exciting card. I cannot wait.
Yeah, make a prediction.
Weekend. My prediction is Conor McGregor. I'm done doubting the guy. I'm going with Conor to win. How he wins will be a knockout if he does win. I don't see. I mean, he could win a decision too, but I think he'll more likely to get a finish than a decision. So I'm going Conor by knockout, Conor by decision, and then Khabib by TKO is my possibilities. Those are my three in order. So yeah, and then the co-main, I'm going Ferguson, Dominic Reyes, Derek Lewis, and then I don't know. I go with Michelle.
Yeah.
To round out the main card. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, share with your friends. And on iTunes, subscribe there as well. Download all of our episodes, subscribe, leave us a review, please. We'd appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back next weekend to recap UFC 229. We are still working on something possible for doing a live spot for this card. And if we can pull it off, be something pretty special. So stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to our Twitter handles for updates on that. They're on the screen there for you guys if you can see. Anyways, that's it. Aaron Bronsteter. There you go. Right above it. There you go. Aaron Bronsteter coming up, guys. We talked to him about UFC 229 and everything. And yeah, enjoy. And joining us now on the Slip and Dip podcast is TSN's own Aaron Bronsteter. I know you'll be at the big fight coming up, man. Conor Khabib, it's right upon us, man. So tell me how you're feeling about this incredible matchup that is just a few days away from now.
I can't wait for everything to get started. Once the press conference happens and the open workouts happens, and we start to really feel the vibe of what's going on, I think it's honestly going to be the biggest thing in the world. I think everybody's going to have their eyes on what's going on next week, and it's just a breath of fresh air for the UFC and for the sport, really, that people are going to be paying that kind of attention to it on a mainstream level. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for coming on the show, man. First time joining us on the show.
Some more new Canadian flavor.
Yeah, some Canadian flavor as always.
Join your boy Danny and our boy James.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good company right there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man. We are big fans of your work. We all see it, obviously at events, and then of course, we pay attention to your work when we're not at events, and you're there. It's kind of like this weekend coming up, so we'll be watching you closely, and you talking with Dana backstage. You seem to have a really good relationship with Dana. Sometimes he can be a little bit short and I guess catty in a way to some people. He seems to be more open and honest with you than not, but still there's a lot of times we really never get honesty out of Dana. But
well, it's case by case really with him. You just never know. You've got to read the room with him. You got to know if he's going to be in a good mood or not, and if he's in a good mood he'll give you some good stuff, and if he's in a bad mood you just got to you got to tread carefully.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I mean, obviously the Conor Khabib fight, man, I don't know. How are you thinking this is going to be like the same type of crowd that we've seen in years past with Conor, with like the Aldo fights, like the Chad Mendez's? Do you think it's going to be that type of well-traveled Irish crowd this time around?
I think so. I think we're going to get a good Irish contingent at this card. And I think we'll also have a decent Russian contingent. This is going to be interesting to see what happens out there in the crowd in terms of these two parts of the world colliding, not only in the octagon, but potentially outside the octagon. It can get heated. But, people flew in from Ireland to just be in the city for Mayweather-McGregor. I don't see them, not getting actually in the building this time, as the tickets will be a little bit less than what they were for that event. But events sold out, and I think we're going to see a decent Irish contingent. And, the crowd always goes crazy for Conor. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of wealthy people in there as well who are just there to enjoy the festivities and not make a ton of noise. So we'll see what overrides.
And how big a deal do you think the fact that Conor's used to this stage, and people are not talking about this angle, everything he do is mega big. Khabib, as good as a fighter he is, we have not seen him on this mega stage, so we have no idea how he's going to react to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's going to be a lot of histrionics involved with this, whether, Conor tries to get into his head, which I think he already has. I think that he did get into Khabib's head in that last press conference. I was sitting front row for that, and I was looking at Khabib the entire time to see if anything was affecting him. It took a little while to kind of crack that veneer, but I think it eventually did get cracked. But you're right. I mean, this is going to be something that Khabib has not been part of before. This is going to be a circus. I mean, we saw what happened in Brooklyn with the bus. That was kind of a circus atmosphere, but once the fights rolled around, it kind of cooled down. It's not going to cool down in this event. And there's a lot riding on it for Khabib. He's undefeated, never lost a round in the UFC. He's got more to lose than he does to win.
What do you think about everybody making a big deal about the bus incident and them using the footage and stuff and asking Dana, like, why would you use the footage? Like, to me, it's like I told Matt on last week's show, my mom knows nothing about Conor other than he fought Mayweather. And said they let that crazy man fight, and that's how big a deal it capture people that don't give nothing about MMA, but they just see that footage and know that he fought Floyd, and it's like, oh, I need to watch this crazy guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's Conor. That's what Conor's draw is. I mean, he's just so unpredictable, and that's why I think people love him, because you just don't know what you're going to get with this guy, both inside and outside the cage. It's just so unpredictable.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, man. And it's going to be interesting to see, of course, how the fight plays out for me, because it's truly, you always hear the classic striker versus grappler matchup, right? And this is, I think, this at its finest right here. Conor, especially coming off the Floyd fight, like we just mentioned, like, he's probably going to be sharper with his hands, and he's already one of the sharpest, if not the sharpest, when it comes to, his hand game and his timing and his striking and finding openings on guys, like bigger guys too. Like, he was tagging Nate Diaz left and right, even though, he had 2 fights that went one way and one the other. But, I'm interested to see what his striking is going to look like this time around. And of course, obviously, if you can get the takedown defense. How are you expecting this to play out?
Well, the more fighters that I've talked to about this, the more I start to see the advantages that Conor has. A lot of the different fighters think that Conor's got a great shot at winning this thing. And the reason for that is because of his amazing distance control. And also just that Khabib telegraphs his takedowns. We saw what happened when Conor fought Chad Mendes. That was on like a week's notice, not training for takedown defense, because Aldo certainly wasn't going to try to take him down. And he was still able to stuff some Chad Mendes takedowns and also get up when Mendes had taken him down. Eventually, Mendes tired out, and Conor was able to take him out. But will that happen with Khabib? That I'm not so sure of. I mean, Khabib's an endurance machine. So he can frustrate Conor. He can make this a very, very miserable night for Conor McGregor. But on the flip side of that, all it takes is one with McGregor, and McGregor's a master of distance control. He's a master of getting in people's heads, and really a master strategist, if you've seen what he's done in his previous fights. I mean, you mentioned the Diaz fights. Diaz was like a tree that wouldn't go down. He kept chopping and chopping and chopping, and he just stood there. And I think that kind of flummoxed him. But in this situation, we've seen Khabib go down. When Michael Johnson tagged him in the first round, we saw Ali Akinta hit him with some shots. With Conor, I think that shot will put him down. So he's going to have to be extra careful in that regard. He's not going to try to be, careless with his takedowns. But, if Khabib gets his hands on him, he's like flypaper, and you're just going down, and it's going to be a bad round for you.
Preach. I got Conor win by second round KO for those factors. The way he strategizes, the way he closes distance, and the fact that he fought the Diaz, and he learned from his mistake the first time. And with Diaz being bigger, it should be a lot easier to implement that same strategy against a smaller Khabib. But I think I can see him get taken down and get dominated for a round, and then come by and catch him with that one hit a quarter. That's that left hand, and end it all she wrote.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing about Khabib is he's going to have to be extra aggressive here, because every time the round starts, it's going to start on the feet. And that's where Conor McGregor is going to have the best chance of beating him. So if Khabib wants to get a win here, he's going to need to put Conor out, I think. He has the capacity to take Conor down for 5 rounds and make it a really miserable night for him. But at the same time, the more often and the more opportunities that Conor gets on the feet, the worse off it is for Khabib. So I think he's going to know that going in.
So the big question I have that, is kind of out there. It's kind of out there a little bit, given the co-main event between Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis. Will there be any shenanigans when it comes to weigh-in day, Friday morning? Is there going to be any issues on the scale, or are we going to have smooth sailing? What are you calling here?
I'm calling smooth sailing, but I just certainly hope not. But if we end up seeing, Conor versus Ferguson or something, it's still going to be an amazing fight.
That would be crazy.
As long as Conor gets on the scale and makes weight, we're going to have a great event. Whether it's Anthony Pettis he fights, whether it's Ferguson he fights. Yeah, I mean, but Khabib looked good on the scale the last couple times. He seems to be walking around a lot lighter. There was even a point where he said he thought he could make featherweight, but I wouldn't risk that if I were him. But given his previous history of making weight, but I think it's going to be smooth sailing, at least for those two particular fights.
And since you're going to be on the scene there, and you've been to multiple big events, what do you think the UFC could do to make this the norm? Because to me, that's the problem with the sport. This is the exception and not the norm. As far as that, the atmosphere and all the stuff surrounding them, and how can they make this a 4 to 5 times a year thing versus a 1 or 2 times a year thing?
So what they need to do is they need to build a machine. They need to get about $5-6 billion and invest it into a cloning machine so they can clone Conor McGregor as many times as possible. And that way Conor can compete every month and draw those kind of numbers. That's how they can do it.
I like it.
I'm a thinker.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It'd be something, right? I mean, you could even add different flavors. You have them represent different countries and stuff, as long as they have the same bravado and everything like that.
Yeah, you get like a speech therapist to teach him how to have like an accent from lots of different parts of the world. You got like the Portuguese Conor McGregor, the Russian Conor McGregor. It would be great.
Grab some new markets, man. We're on to something big here. We're on to something big here. I like it. But
Peruvian Conor McGregor.
Right. So what if? Kind of playing on my previous question, right? What if this is the scenario that finally gets us to having Khabib versus Tony Ferguson?
Well, I mean, it's very possible. But you know what? With Poirier and Diaz coming up at MSG, I just have a feeling that if Khabib does win, that he's going to fight the winner of that particular match. Yeah. Now, a Khabib versus Nate Diaz fight would, I think, be pretty ugly, but Khabib versus Poirier would be one heck of a fight. That said, I mean, I keep hoping that one day that Ferguson and Khabib match gets made because it would just be so good. I actually think that Ferguson has a lot of advantages in that fight if it goes to the ground and on the feet. And that's the thing that I would love to see is whether Khabib can withstand all the different modes of attack that Tony Ferguson has. I've been dying to see that fight. I think everybody has, but it seems like it's not going to happen. It's not meant to be.
You think it's cursed?
I do. What was it? 4 times? 4 times it's fallen through, or 3 times?
4, I think.
I think 4 times.
I think it's 2 each way. It's been each been responsible twice for it falling through, so it's 2 each way.
Yeah, unbelievable. We got to see that fight.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Maybe in Bellator when they're like 46, we can see it.
Right.
That's like the new thing. They got the Senior Citizen Tour. Speaking of that, what do you think about that? The Tito and Chuck fight. Do you have any interest in it? It's like me personally, I don't have none, but it's already sold out. I talked to Golden Boy people.
No, it's not sold out. What are you talking about?
They said they
dude, the tickets went on sale. I screenshotted this. The tickets went on sale. I screenshotted how many tickets were available in an hour and a half after they went on sale on the Friday. I went back on the Tuesday and looked, and there were more seats available. Not less, more seats available. It's not sold. It's nowhere near sold out unless they bought every seat in that arena. There were 90% of the tickets were available like a week later.
That's a scam. Scam.
Who told you it was sold? Who told you it was sold out?
Somebody from Golden Boy.
Who told you it was sold out?
Somebody from Golden Boy.
Promoter
that does stuff.
Well, unless you go to Ticketmaster, I don't know. Maybe it is sold out. But when I was looking, there were more tickets available days later.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I bet you it'd be sold out by the time they actually get in the ring, though. Magic.
No.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Unless they're handing tickets out on the streets, like.
What's the undercard going to look like? Do we even know?
No,
no idea.
I've heard that Gleason Tebow is going to be on it, and I've heard that Tom Lawler is going to be on it, and that's all I've heard about that undercard. And I mean, those guys are great fighters, but I mean, I don't think people are paying any extra money to see them. Maybe to see a cool Tom Lawler walkout, I'd pay money to see that, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? I think that's one of the things that they're missing in boxing, or Oscar coming from the boxing world, is that MMA, you have to have multiple fights to draw attention on a card.
Well, he's doing everything the boxing way. He did the press conference the boxing way. He just doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's getting into.
Yeah, that could be disastrous.
I agree with you, but to me, the MMA model, like I've said this multiple times. I'm gonna keep saying this. What you see today in 2018 will be completely different if Dana leaves to go to boxing in 2020. Because that's a story that nobody's really talking about. Because his opt out starts at whatever July 2020 because of the whole buyout thing. He can collect that $300 million. If he does decide to walk out then, or even a couple months after that, what we see today will be completely different. And then we'll be like, we'll see like what's the real way to do things. A lot of people are sleeping on that.
Zuffa boxing seems to have no traction, and Dana White even himself said, I thought I knew what I was getting into with this boxing game, and it just hasn't worked out. So, Zuffa boxing might not be a reality after all. I mean, I would have liked to see if he could have translated the UFC's model of promotion into boxing and built characters and made it so that every fight on the card was exciting, but it just hasn't come to be.
I think he needs to put more time into it. I think that's where he's gonna have to pick. Like, he gonna keep doing what he's doing or focus on that. You can't do both.
Well, he also doesn't have a ton of friends in the boxing world. Him and Oscar don't really get along. Obviously, him and what's his name, the old guy, Bob
Arum.
Bob Arum don't get along.
He's cool with Al Heyman though.
He's cool with Al Heyman, and I think him and Eddie Hearn have something of a relationship. But yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he's got an opportunity. Like, if he really wants to make a splash, I mean, obviously, all the HBO fighters they should be free agents right now. So, I mean, hey, go start writing some huge checks, and then let's make a splash. Get all the HBO fighters,
Yeah, but which HBO fighters are big? Who are the big HBO fighters right now?
Just Canelo and Triple G.
Well, Canelo's not HBO, is he?
Yeah.
Canelo was HBO. Canelo was HBO. Sorry.
Him and Triple G's contracts, they're technically free agents right now.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, Triple G's a free agent, and it was the end of their deals.
Yeah.
But I mean, they also said they want to go fight by fight for their deal, so they don't even want to latch onto a specific network. At least that's what Triple G said. I think that's what Canelo's going to do as well.
Yeah. Tell me this: when do you think Dana's going to cash out and leave the UFC? Because I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
I don't know. I think he's still in it. I think he still is enjoying what he's doing. Now, I don't know what's going on with this UFC 230 card, but it seems like it's just been a disaster in terms of trying to get this main event going. And when you put some thought into it and think what really could be the main event for this card, there's nothing really that springs to mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know how frustrating that is for someone like Dana White, who likes to have things go his way. But I think Dana's around for a little while longer. I don't see him leaving anytime soon. You mentioned there was an opt-out. Was that for him at 2020?
Yeah, 2020. He could collect $300 million per the deal when the Zuffa got sold or whatever. He had to stay on for 4 years to collect that $300 million.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's when early as he can. I'm not gonna sit there and say he's doing it in July 2020, but it makes the most sense. $300 million. Here you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know what? Dana White's one of those guys where people will say that he's not always forthright with people, but I think he's going to be a guy where we miss him when he's gone. I don't think that we're going to see anybody who's able to do what he did in the way that he's able to do it. Just being so brash and so forthright and so in your face about all of his feelings and not pulling punches. I mean, Kendrick, you're in the boxing world. You see what these boxing promoters are like. Everything's always like rose-colored glasses with them. They're not. Oh, that was a great card. We were sold out. It's just it's not. Dana doesn't. He'll paint a picture every now and then, but most of the time he's pretty forthright with how he's feeling on that day.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, he's definitely made himself a part of the brand. I mean, when you think of UFC,
absolutely.
You think of Dana, like if you're just not an uber casual, if you're somebody that's followed the game for even a few months, you know who Dana White is, and well, I've always said no more than fighters. The
superstars are like Conor, Ronda, Brock Lesnar, John Jones, and Dana White and GSP. Dana White, I think, is one of the stars of the UFC. As much as he might not admit that, and other people might think I'm off base by saying that, he's been the synonymous with the UFC for over a decade, and he's when you think UFC, you think Dana White.
I will get your take because you see the stuff that we do behind the scenes, even more behind the scenes than we do with the TSN power. Is the UFC more of entertainment or a sport? Because there's certain aspects from the PR aspect to the stuff that happens during fight week that's like, oh, this is entertainment. And then it's actual fighting, of course, so it's a legit sport. So it's kind of like they blur that line, and I think that's in the big picture. It's like they're going to have to make a choice in the near future if they really want to take it to the next level.
I don't think they do need to make a choice. I think that they are, people say, "Oh, this isn't what a real sport would do." They're a promotion. They're not. They're not the NHL. They're not the NBA. They're not run the same way. And people talk about a players' unions and stuff like that, and more power to the fighters if they can put that together. But this is a promotion company. It's the same as like Live Nation. Putting on concerts. They're in the entertainment business, and sports. What happens inside the octagon is the sport, and people will check it out. And if you are that concerned with meritocracy, the UFC might not be for you, because every now and then you'll see a guy get a title fight that might not deserve it, like Dan Henderson fighting Bisping. It's a grudge match, But they gauge it based on what they think the fans want to see. And they're a promotion company. So they're trying to draw in a bigger audience as a result of that, and that's just the way that they operate. And I think that that's fine. I think that if you want to make money in this business, that's the way you've got to do it. And if people are want to see 1 versus 2 all the time, and they follow the rankings and all this stuff, you got to take all that with a grain of salt. I think with the UFC, and really with any fight promotion, whether it's boxing or Bellator, or any of these promotions.
Oh, couldn't have said it better myself, man. Aaron Bronsteter of TSN, thank you for coming on the show, my man. Look forward to all your work coming up this week. And obviously enjoy Las Vegas and the incredible card that will be UFC 229 and the circus surrounding it.
Absolutely. I can't wait.